Welcome to Reinventing Perspectives. Today we have a super exciting guest. We have Breanna Gunn. And Brianna, please, dive in and tell us all about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I am a funnel and marketing strategist and copywriter. And when you asked me to be on the podcast, I was absolutely thrilled because I love what you do and what you stand for, and just so excited to chat today.
Oh, thank you. I'm super excited to have you on because you're really going to help us out. I love your tagline that you help introverted entrepreneurs rock their content marketing. Amazing. Because, a lot of times you think, oh, content marketing, it means I have to be out there. And if I'm not naturally a person who wants to be out there, then how do I make content marketing work? Please
Right.
help, help us out, Brianna.
It's so funny because I think as an introvert, people are always surprised to find out that I'm an introvert because I have so much content that goes out. But it's my way of building my buffer around myself. If I have content going out, then I don't have to be as on all the time. And I think that we, as introverts, we avoid the creation process because it's so time consuming and intensive. And if we can just shift our mindset a little bit and look at the creation process as an opportunity to build something that serves us in a much bigger way so that we can not have to be on all the time, it comes so much easier.
Mm, yeah, that's really important. It's great that you said it. Well, you know what? Let me take everybody back a little bit so that we get to know you a little bit. Tell me
Yeah.
about your journey into entrepreneurship, Brianna.
So I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I actually was in the midst of pursuing law school and got a job at a law firm, loved them, realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. And very shortly after that, I got pregnant and I kind of got stumped. I was like, how am I going to continue to work at the law firm and be mom and do all these things? And I found a gig site, found my first gig, and haven't looked back. And that was 11 years ago. And I've, built my business over the last decade or so, um, figuring out what I really love to do and the things I really don't like to do. And I think that a lot of us, jump into a business or a career or, entrepreneurship thinking that what we start out doing is the thing we have to end up doing. And I think that's a fallacy that we need to correct because I'm not doing what I was doing 10 years ago. And I'm sure
Mm,
you're also not doing the thing that you started out doing or you've compounded or built on it.
mm.
And here I am.
Wow, that's great. I understand that so much because it's almost like it's a journey of self-discovery, really. I feel like that's really what
Yes.
entrepreneurship is. And it's between discovering yourself and discovering where you provide the highest value to the market,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah,
an amazing it's an amazing journey because it's an empowering journey too.
it is. And I love that you call it a journey of self-discovery because it really is because for a lot of us, our businesses are an extension of ourself. And so, we're figuring out where we fit in the world. And it's, if you can frame it in that perspective, it's a really cool concept.
Wow, this is gonna be great. I can tell already. Now, Brianna, tell me. I'm running away from my questions because I got you on here and I said, let me just ask you about this. What do you think about how does the brand fit into all of this since we are talking about kind of discovering yourself as an entrepreneur?
Like a personal brand?
It's like a personal brand.
Yeah. I think that there's so much push now to make sure you get all of your ducks in a row before you launch your business. Get your website right, get social media established, get your branding. And I didn't start out that way. I didn't even have a website for the first 8 years I was in business. Now,
Mm,
I realize that in this day and age, you really do need some kind of a landing page or a website that details out who you are so people can look you up. But having everything figured out on day one is not feasible. And because I'm a very different human than I was 10 years ago, my branding reflects who I am now, not who I was. And I
Mm,
think if we try to establish a brand, even naming our brand something other than, our name, it can backfire because you end up being stuck and tied to this thing that you created when you thought you knew what you wanted.
mm,
And so I would say for branding, your branding should grow with you. So if you're not sure what your brand colors are, you don't know, you don't love your logo, don't invest a ton of time and money into it when you're just starting out. Give yourself some room to grow and expand, and then invest the funds into building a beautiful website and getting that professionally designed logo and, trademarking your name and doing all of those things. Now, this is a different story if you've been in business for 5, 10, 15 years and you're starting a new facet of your business, then you have a better handle on who you are in the entrepreneurial space. But when you're just starting out, assuming that you know what you want and you know what you're going to want in 5, 10, 15 years, that's asking a lot of yourself. There's no other place on earth where we would expect to have that kind of clarity that fast.
mm. Wow, that's really great that you say that because I think that just takes the pressure off people
Mhm.
because society and just all these ideas flying at us online, you get so much pressure to do things and try to appear a certain way, and that's
Yeah.
really really great, Brianna. Now, at what point did you know that you were onto something great? You move away from thinking about law and you start your own. You get a couple of gigs and you get the wheels turning. When did you know you were onto something great?
I this is gonna sound really funny. I didn't really look at myself as a full-time entrepreneur until a few years ago. It was always a side hustle. It was the thing
Mm,
I did to fund vacations and the thing I did so I could afford the Zoom membership for my kids. And was I making a full-time income? Absolutely, but I wasn't looking at my business as something that I could scale to 6 or 7 figures. It was a means to support the lifestyle that I wanted, which I think a lot of us start out at, and people are always shocked when I don't say, "Well, I knew on day 2 that this was gonna be a career." Uh,
mm,
it was probably about 3 years ago that I realized I was onto something, that I was really passionate about helping businesses with their content marketing and their launches. And it was another year before I realized that, I could build something huge.
mm,
And I think we expect to have these aha moments so early on in our careers that, people are always like, "What's your why?" I hate that question. My why changes all the time. My why today is so I can take my husband and I to Disney World next month and
mm,
have fun and not worry about spending. My why a month ago was so I could homeschool my kids.
wow.
It's okay to not have everything figured out and
No.
not know from day 1 that this is the thing you're going to land on. And it's okay once you've figured it out to continue to change and grow and morph and shift things to fit the bigger vision.
Wow. This is really, really great. I love that. It's the evolution of it. I love it. Now, Brianna, I have to ask you this because you decide you're a solopreneur. At some point, you realize, okay, side hustle, I'm a solopreneur.
Mhm.
Now, wow, I can hit that 7 figures. Like, how did you go from that transition?
I realized that I didn't wanna be an agency. I tried the agency model, I shut it down very, very quickly. I think I was only in the agency model for around 6 months before I realized it was not in alignment with what I wanted. It was far more time consuming than I had time for. And so I shifted to a team model where I have contractors that are not exclusive to me necessarily. I do share my contractors with others, but that have where I have a good chunk of their time to help me do things. I have a junior copywriter, I have a graphic designer, I have a social media manager, and I realized. when I could lean on my team, that's when I could scale my business drastically. I'm actually looking for another copywriter right now because we've grown so much in the last year that I need to take some pressure off my number one and
Mm,
give her some support. And so I think I realized I could scale to 7 figures almost by accident. It was one of those, I'm happy making more than my husband. I'll be completely honest, you know? But going big like that, going to $1,000,000 in a single year or a single month, that takes some chutzpah and that takes some strength and some planning. And so
mm,
when I realized I could effectively run a team that was autonomous and adult and we don't I don't run my team like a traditional team. I expect everyone to act like adults, and I've curated a very different environment that works for me and my team, and it's not for everybody, and that's totally okay. And it was also realizing that I didn't have to do just the copywriting. I could do the strategy and I could do the planning and I could do the other pieces so that I could have these different facets in my business, and going bigger with the price point would allow me to scale faster. So, while copy is my bread and butter, I I also have coaching clients and consulting clients and other things that fill the gaps and help push me past that six-figure mark closer to seven figures, if that
mm.
makes sense.
Yeah,
So just being open.
yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Well, congratulations on all your success so far, and
Oh, thank you.
that's amazing. When I was hearing you talk about that, I was just thinking to myself, I feel as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're afraid to go for that big ticket or high ticket sale.
Yeah.
And, just what's the self talk going on inside of you when you're like, okay,
You know, I it started out looking at because when I started out, God, I was only charging $10 an hour,
mm,
right? Because I was like, that's what I'm making at the law firm, you know, and I didn't account for the fact that I had to pay taxes, that I had to have savings, that I had all these things that on the financial side that you don't think about when you're just starting out. I think the self-talk is really more about how you value your time and saying, I'm worth, 250, 500, $1,000 an hour. Understanding that that doesn't mean I'm taking home that entire amount, that at the end of the day, I'm making about two-thirds of that. And for me, it was more realizing the actual cost of running a business and wanting to be able to pay my team. And so I had to take into account not only my hourly rate, what I wanted to pay myself every month. So figuring out what that looked like, but also figuring out the expense of my team, the expense of my support staff, the expense of my technology and subscriptions and, business expenses basically. What does it cost for me to have my email marketing? What does it cost for me to have all of those pieces, and taking all of that and putting it into a big bucket and actually doing the math, which
mm,
is a big deal because I hate math. Um, you know, it was really looking at it all and saying, okay, in order for me to make a living wage and still support the pieces of my business that are not me, this is what I have to bring in minimum. And it took that weird self-talk saying I can't charge that out of the equation, because it became a very real, I have to charge this much per hour, this much per project, in order to pay the different people that were involved in the project, in order
mm.
to pay myself. And now I can't imagine charging less. But I think stripping that internal "I'm not worth it" business out, and
Mm.
understanding that in order to pay for my business to continue to be a business, this is what it costs.
Wow. It's great that you break it down like that because, like you said, we can get into our heads and
Mhm.
move away from, hey, this is a business, and I'm spending a lot of time to bring people results, and this is what it's going to cost. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Brianna, what are the common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making as far as their marketing strategies?
They're not getting personal enough. We are in an era where we are all isolated and we're looking for connection and community. And if you are an entrepreneur who is looking for sales and looking for clients, you need to establish relationship before you ever go for the sale. And so content marketing should be all about establishing that relationship. It should be conversational, it should be educational, and it should be personal. And I don't mean personal like, don't, I ate this for breakfast this morning. I mean, talk about the time that you had to potty train your dog and how that correlates to your business. Talk about how homeschooling your kids taught you a lesson in business. It doesn't have to be every post, but dropping in some of those personal conversations breaks down a barrier that other content doesn't.
Mm,
Causes people to feel safe with you because they can identify with you and go, I've had an experience similar or the same as you. Okay, I get you. Now you seem like someone I can connect with. Does that make sense?
absolutely. I think you that's perfect. Because I'm telling you, because as we create content as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're just like throwing out information.
Mhm.
And yes, it may be valuable information, but it's not connecting with anyone.
Right.
I can tell that that's definitely the missing link because, sometimes even I'm scrolling on Instagram and I'm following, big names,
Mhm.
and I know what they're saying is valuable, but it's not moving me in any way besides that I
Right.
know that it's a big name.
Right. And those of us who don't have a name that's, we aren't an Amy or a Marie or a Stu. We don't have the benefit, or Gary, we don't have the benefit of hinging on our name. We have to attract people through something that makes us stand out. And adding that relationship building piece is something a lot of the bigger players miss because they don't need to worry about establishing relationship because they're banking on you knowing their name.
Mm,
So when you go out and you establish that you are different, and here's how you are different and unique and a person and a human, you build your own little squad that supports you.
so true, so true. I have to tell you what I found very difficult in terms of marketing is that sometimes it's a natural thing to want to attract just about everyone.
Mhm.
And that process of refining your message to the point that you feel like you're excluding people,
Yep.
I find that difficult to be honest, Brianna. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me from your perspective how you've kind of dealt with that.
I'm not a fan of excluding people for the sake of excluding people, but I understand because we all want to serve as many people as possible. I have clients who are on a mission to serve a million people. I have clients that are on a mission to serve 100,000 or 100 people. I think that you have to get to a point where, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. You have to get to a point where you are comfortable if people don't like you, and that
Mm,
takes real personal growth. And it's no longer about the business, it's about that piece shifts over into our insecurities, our personal insecurities in a really big way because nobody wants to be the last kid picked for kickball.
mm,
But when we publish content that is not for everybody, we run the risk of people saying, "Yeah, that's not for me," and walking away. And it ties into that, 4th grade feeling of I'm going to get picked last. And so we
mm.
try to, reach everybody so that we're picked first or second. And I think that, it's a maturity thing. And it's also something that comes from practice when we start to see results that are really groundbreaking results that are, $10,000 days and, full pay clients, then we can validate that, okay, it's okay that I'm only talking to a small portion of the population. It's okay
Mm,
that I'm only talking to these people because, we are targeting specifics and targeting a type, and that's okay. But until you start to see those results actually play out, it can be a little bit like gut wrenching almost because you're trying to play to the masses and that doesn't work. And it's going to take a lot longer for you to get results. So when you niche down, it's scary. But once you start getting those people buying into what you're saying and doing, it's validation. And validation is always going to help propel you forward because you're like, okay, this is actually working. Now I can do more of this. And so I think just hanging on, giving yourself a period of time, tell yourself you're gonna do this for 30 or 60. I suggest 90 days because it takes about 90 days usually. But promise yourself you're going to go with this strategy for enough of a length of time that you can actually see it play out and then make a decision about continuing the strategy versus trying one post saying, "Oh, nobody bought," and closing shop. That makes no sense.
mm,
We'll
mm.
do it all the time. So give yourself enough time.
Wow, that's really, really great advice, Brianna. It's so true because sometimes we go back to those insecurities and we
Mhm.
forget that look, there's someone or a group of people that we can outserve just about anybody, and those are the people that we want to go after because
Yep.
we bring out the best in them and we bring out the best in ourselves, really. So that's really, really great advice. Now, what is the most overlooked thing by entrepreneurs when it comes to lead conversions? I love this word because it's thrown around so much on the internet and it grabs people's attention just like that.
Yeah. I think the most overlooked thing when it comes to lead conversions is your actual prospecting timeline. So, how much time does it take from the time you meet someone to the time they actually buy? And most people don't know the answer to that question. So, if you want to figure that out, go look at your most recent clients, whether that's one person or five people, and look at when you met them and then do the math. Figure out, for someone who doesn't like math, I do a lot of it. Figure out how long it takes from the time you say hello to the time they actually say that, yes, I want to work with you. That's your conversion period. And knowing that like for me, that's about 45 days. So knowing that if I meet you today, it's going to take a month and a half for you to say, yes, I want to work with you, Brie, if not a little bit longer than that. So if I'm looking for clients, we're recording this in June. I'm currently looking for clients for August.
Mm-mm.
And so knowing your conversion time for your actual lead conversation and acquisition, that changes the conversation because then you can really start. This is where you shift into scaling and big money and reaching those numbers because then you can plan ahead and say, okay, I have 4 spots for August. That means I need to go find 4 people who are going to want to work with me in August.
Mm.
And instead of looking for them in August, if you know your lead time is 30 days, you look for them in July. If you know your lead time is 90 days, you start looking for them in May.
Wow, that's groundbreaking right there. Because you just killed a whole lot of things. So honestly, you really have. You've killed that
Right.
pressure to try and hammer people over the head with buy, 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 because you understand how long it's going to take.
Mhm.
So you're pacing yourself. You're not trying to just sell things to people randomly. And you also take the pressure off yourself of like constantly checking. Have they bought? Have they bought? Have they bought? You know?
Yeah.
So wow,
And
groundbreaking.
then it trickles into everything because your posts, if you're not getting high engagement, it's not a big deal because you know people are watching. If you don't get a lot of comments on your video, it's okay. It really does take the mindset mites, I call them, the little voices in your head that tell you you can't do this and you should just go get a job. It takes them completely out of the equation because you can be like, "That's fine that nobody's paying attention right now because I don't need them to pay attention right now. I need them to pay attention in a month and a half."
Mm. And it becomes like a dance because you're nurturing
Yes.
a relationship,
Yep.
you know? So now you understand, okay, that's not quite working with this person or this group of people. Maybe try another angle. Ah, amazing. Absolutely amazing, Brianna. The audience is just going to go nuts over this one.
Oh, I'm so glad. If I can help just one person get past their stuff,
Mhm.
that's totally worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now,
Yeah.
Brianna, you're a funnel expert,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of talk, and people say, oh, you should always have a funnel, or you don't need a funnel, or it's not about the funnel, or, there's just so many conflicting views online about
Yeah, absolutely.
what you need. Like, what is the secret sauce to online marketing? Is it the funnel?
So here's the thing, everything is a funnel.
Hmm.
Like, I funnel is a dirty word. I get it.
Hmm.
It has been used to death. There are programs with funnel in the name that people can't stand or they love, or there are so many competing opinions about your funnel. I prefer to think of it as a client journey.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, from the time like, when you and I met, we had a little bit of a conversation, we chatted, we decided this would be a good idea, and then we moved the relationship down the path,
Mm,
versus you having I mean, or you could look at it like you funneled me into your podcast piece of your business. Either way, we're moving people from one point to the next, and it doesn't matter if you call it a funnel, if you call it a client journey, if you call it your lead acquisition system, you are trying to get people to take an action at the end of the day, and that's funnel.
mm,
And so every time you go out and post, instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm building this funnel," think of it as guiding your future clients toward actually purchasing. And think of your
mm,
if you think of it as a guide or a path or a journey, it makes it a little bit easier because it doesn't have to be this wide net at the top that narrows down. It can be more tailored and customized for higher end clients. It can be wider for lower end clients. There's so much more to a funnel than just the go get people, stick as many people as you can in the top and hope some people shake out at the bottom. You can get
mm.
so much more done if you think of it as a journey and as a guiding path for people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, for my audience and for myself as early entrepreneurs, that really takes the randomness out of
Mhm.
everything. Because sometimes we're doing all these random things, thinking that it's a funnel and doing this and that. And like you said, hoping people are just going to funnel down into the business. And really, to be honest, a lot of people, including myself, we don't really understand that kind of. It's a great
Yeah.
diagram, but we don't really understand how it works. But like you said it
Mhm.
totally makes sense. So thank you for breaking down the funnel for us. Thank you for
Yeah, of
making
course.
it for making it a clean word.
Yeah, of course.
um, Now, Brianna, I wanted to ask you about this because
Mhm,
people are talking a lot about using LinkedIn and TikTok as like the organic places where you can get clients.
mhm.
TikTok feels, they started with TikTok. TikTok feels a lot like you have to be, you know.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you're not really that kind of person, you're trying to understand, okay, how does this fit into, like you said, walking my clients through the journey?
Yeah. So I think I am a fan of TikTok. I'm also a fan of LinkedIn, as you know. And I love Clubhouse. Those are my 3 outreach sources. Am I on other platforms? Absolutely. Do I engage on other platforms? Not nearly as much as I do on TikTok or LinkedIn or Clubhouse. You have to find the outlet that works for you and your clients. So you need to know enough about the people that you serve to figure out where they're going to show up, and then be yourself. I don't dance on TikTok. I give marketing tips or lip sync or point at random words on the screen rather than dance because I'm not comfortable dancing. I'm just not. Um, but people love it. And I'm able to repurpose it onto Instagram. It's one of those things where figure out what your comfort level is. You do not have to show up everywhere, but it's really
Mm,
important that you show up where your clients are. So ask your clients what social media they use. Most people would be happy to tell you, hey, what social platforms are you active on? Find out and then go show up there. And don't worry about the platforms that they're not on. If your clients aren't on TikTok, don't be on TikTok because it's not going to do your business any good. If your clients are on LinkedIn, do more on LinkedIn. If your clients are on Instagram, do more on Instagram. Figure out where your clients show up. And then if you want more clients like the ones you have, go show up there too.
True, true. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Brianna, like on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it feels very kind of, buttoned up kind of place to
Yes, it
be.
does.
And then, I think you may not be sure, and I'm sure some of the audience and myself too, you may not be sure how to communicate to people on LinkedIn. Should you keep it highly professional? Should you stay with your kind of messaging? Should you switch it because of the platform? Like, how do you figure that out?
I am a fan of being one person in all places
Mm.
because the last thing you want is for someone to find you on LinkedIn and then be like, I wonder if Bree's over here on Instagram and there's a naked picture of somebody. And then that's,
True, true.
oh, wow, that's not who I thought this was, right?
Mm.
So, not that I have any naked pictures on my Instagram, you guys. It was just the most dramatic example I could think of. But it's really making sure that you show up in an authentic way no matter where you show up. So those personal stories we talked about, they should go on LinkedIn as well. Guys, I make 90% of my income from LinkedIn connections.
Mm.
I show up as me, as imperfect, swearing, doing the thing I do on LinkedIn, just like I show up on Facebook, just like I show up on TikTok. Well, maybe not TikTok because I don't post those videos on LinkedIn. I could, they're stories. Um, Now I need to think about doing that. But showing up as imperfect as you are where your people are is going to make the biggest impact. And for me, it's not the content I post on LinkedIn, it's the messages in the background that I send that are outreach, that are relationship building. And it goes back to building relationship over and over again. It's saying, for example, hey Priscilla, I noticed that you have this really incredible podcast. I'd love to learn more about your business. Would you be open to connecting?
Mm.
And then the content that you post supports that and gives you humanity and gives you depth so that they can go look and go, oh, she is a real person. She's not a robot. This is not an automated message. Very cool. And then they can go check out your website and check out your other social platforms if you have them and go, this is someone I'd really like to get to know.
Mm.
Instead of trying to be buttoned up on LinkedIn and looser on Instagram and wild on TikTok, be the same person everywhere. And it establishes trust because if you show up the same no matter where they find you,
Mm.
then you're not left wondering, well, are they going to be like that with me? Are they going to treat me this way in my business? Then you have a very clear, delineated definition of this is how this works. This is who this person is. This is how they talk. I like this, the way that they present their information. I want to work with them. Or, wow, they're really kind of a lot. I really don't want to hang out with that person. I'm going to move on.
Mm. Wow, great that you said it. Because now when you say it out loud, it just sounds like you'll drive yourself crazy too. If you're like twerking on TikTok and you're buttoned up on
Right?
LinkedIn and you're
Yeah, we can't all be Lizzo. Like, we just can't. As much as we want to be, it's like we can't all be Amy Porterfield or Sue McLaren. We have to be our own person, but we have to show up as us everywhere.
yes, yes, that's true. That's true. Now, what has been your biggest lesson running your business so far?
Be prepared to pivot
Mm.
because you never know what opportunities are going to come up or when you accept you say yes to a contract or something and you realize you hate the work or you didn't know you loved to do this, be prepared to pivot because having the flexibility to pivot your positioning, your branding, your offerings is going to give you so much more fluidity in your business than if you don't.
Mm, great lesson, great lesson. Because I feel like as entrepreneurs, sometimes we get married to the idea,
Mhm.
and then we ignore all the other facts that are happening, all the signals that are telling us move this way or switch this way, and we're just so married to the dream.
Yep.
So,
And then you end up miserable because you're like, "Man, I really hate doing this, but I'm known as this person, so I have
mm,
to be this person," but internally you're dying inside.
mm, so true. Brianna, please tell us about the 5-day business accelerator challenge.
Sure. So I've had so many people ask me how I find my clients, how I've scaled my business. I put together a 5-day accelerator that teaches you how to do market research, how to talk to your people, and how to go take that research and implement it into your business so that you can find more of your dream clients. It is a completely automated model, so you can start it at any time. It's literally just 5 days, and it is there to help you pitch better, sell better, be more confident in your offerings. If you have been struggling to find clients, it's a great way to shore up that hole in your business.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And where can we go and find this, Brianna, if you could just tell us?
You can go to briannagunn.com/5-day challenge.
Amazing. Sounds amazing. We've got so much value from this conversation and a lot of great tips, really, that are going to help a lot of people. Now, Brianna, just to finish off, I always ask these two questions. I always ask, what is the number one book that you would recommend for an early entrepreneur that's just starting out? Or a resource, whatever you would say for yourself, kind of shifted things for you.
So it's a little hokey, but You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. It's such a great read. It's not necessarily a business book, but it helps with mindset and positioning, and it's a great way if you're just starting out and you need confidence, it's a great book. If you're a little bit further along, I would highly recommend you read Story Brand by Dennis Miller.
Great. Thank you for those recommendations.
Mhm.
Now, Brianna, our final question: what has faith meant to you along your journey?
I heard fate and I was like, wait a second. Uh,
Sorry.
Being an entrepreneur has forced me, not so gently, to lean on my faith and to have faith in myself and my team and my clients. We work our tails off to produce great results for people. We all do as entrepreneurs. And it's the faith in ourselves, the faith in a higher power, the faith in our ability that actually gets it all done and keeps the ball moving forward. Without faith, I wouldn't be here.
Mm, thank you for sharing so wonderfully and so candidly with so many valuable points. Please do go to briannagunn.com/5-day challenge and check out her work. And you can also find Brianna online on TikTok. Use under your name, right, Brianna?
Under my name.
Under your name on TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram. So thank you so much, Brianna. This has been an amazing conversation. I hope we get to chat again. So thank you.
Thank you so much.